This is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Newsom. Apparently, the Intercept broke that he had some wineries that were saved, due to the government stepping in to pay the depositors of the whole Silicon Valley bank implosion that happened. Got to save those wineries. So Newsom's very happy about that. So we're talking about that. Also, a very big women's college is now accepting not women, just anyone who identifies as women. So I guess everyone is allowed, except for cisgender men, even though they'll accept trans men, which identify as men, but they'll still accept it. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but we'll go through it. And I think there's some interesting tidbits in this article that New York Times put out. So we'll talk about that as well. Also, I saw James O'Keefe is coming back. He's the founder of Project Veritas. Project Veritas pushed him out. We covered that as that was happening. And I guess I'll get into it more in that segment, but he just announced that he's starting his own thing, which is no surprise. So I'm glad to see that. And we'll be touching on a couple other different things. But first of all, I want to thank you guys for watching. See you in the comments already. So thank you for popping in. The engagement, that really does help. Thank you guys for watching it live. For people watching it back, make sure you go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, different videos. Please look at different merchandise that we have at the website you guys can check out and that you guys can get, like this cool The Constitution is a Glorious Liberty Document shirt that I got the black tea mug and all kinds of goodies. Who got this cool goat hoodie, goat t-shirt. And I do have it in different colors other than white, so you guys can go ahead and see what else we got at the store that you guys might like to pick up. I gotta get some buttons. I have a button maker. There's so many things I could do. People love their buttons, I tell you. So yeah, just keep looking at the website. Make sure you guys are dropping in your email when you go there. And also, if you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate. It costs a stream, costs to run my website, do a ton of different stuff. So if you would like to help with the overhead, I really appreciate it if you can. Those who are willing to and able to, whether it's a small gift of $10, people have given, $10 and 15 and 20, and people have given more. So if you can, I very much appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube, you can go ahead and actually do like the stickers and super chats and all that stuff. So that should be, I'm filming everything from like a software thing. So I'm pretty sure that still will pop up on my end and I'll see it fine. So if you want to give that way, you can now. So I'm excited about that. And I thank you guys for, seriously, thank you guys for watching to get me to this point to even qualify for that. So all the love to you guys. As I said, thank you in the comments. I see you guys. I don't always respond as much as I'd like to as stuff is coming in because I'm trying to keep on my marks and stuff, but you're very much appreciated and more than welcome to. I see you guys chatting with each other. So I'm glad it's becoming kind of like a community during this time. Also, I want to thank Brighter Mission PAC. I'm actually in their studio today. Brighter Mission PAC does great work in the state of Michigan and is really becoming a huge backbone for a lot of people up and coming who want to run for office and take the good fight to the Democrats. And they're a good source to try to win going forward in 2024. We need all the help that we can get. So please check them out. Please support them. And they're really good people. So I'm very appreciative of being able to use the studio and having used it for so long through my journey and getting to where I am. And they've been an essential part of that. So thankful to the Brighter Michigan PAC. So you guys know that I like to start off with something funny. I don't have a meme today, but I do have a Babylon Bee headline that Elon Musk had actually tweeted out. So here we go. This will lead right into our main story. Um, Kim Jong attends Ivy League university to learn new brainwashing techniques, and he tweeted out funny because it's true, and it's true. You know, there's so many people who send their kids off to college and they just don't come back the same. You know, have you ever seen like before and after photos of like a beautiful young woman and she has flowing blonde hair and just looks, I don't know, great, and all of a sudden a couple years of college and her hair's short and blue and she's kind of morphed. It's incredible. I like those meme when it's like what people, they take different drugs and like this is you on crack, this is you on alcohol, and it's like this is you on like wokeism or liberalism or whatever it is. But yeah, they're really indoctrination camps a lot of the time. Some of the stuff they learn is just bonkers. But I said this leads into the story of the day because there's a college um, where they're accepting everybody, I guess, except cis men. Um, but it's a women's college. So you can be a trans woman now and attend this college. So at Wellesley College, students vote to admit trans men. So this is the New York Times writing about this. Students supported a non-binding referendum on Tuesday that calls for opening admission to all non-binary and transgender applicants. Opponents say the school's mission is to educate women. Wellesley College proudly proclaims itself as a place for women who will make a difference in the world. It boasts a long line of celebrated alumni, including Hillary Clinton, Madeleine Albright, and so on. On Tuesday, its students supported a referendum that had polarized the campus and went straight to the heart of Wellesley's identity as a women's college. The referendum, which was non binding, called for opening admission to all non binary transgender applicants, including trans men. Currently, the college allows admission to anyone who lives and consistently identifies as a woman. The referendum also called for making a college's communications more gender inclusive, for example, using the word students or alumni instead of women. So, isn't it funny how the the world, the more inclusive it gets, the more exclusionary it gets, or the more it's erasing actual, like, I don't know, other people and identities and stuff. It's like we can't refer to you as a mom anymore. You got to be a chest feeder. You know, they just take away all these things and want us to be all these colorful blob people at the same time. It's very strange. I'm sure you guys have seen the movie The Incredibles, which was a good Pixar film. I don't know what Pixar is doing nowadays, but and I haven't watched anything like Disney related for some time, but Incredibles was a really good movie when it came out, and you had Syndrome, I think was his name, the bad guy. He wanted to be a superhero so badly, and he would, when he was a little boy, he'd follow around Mr. Incredible. He was like the head of his fan club, and so he had built himself like some, like, rocket shoes, or not, probably not rocket shoes, but some, maybe something. I don't remember what, when he had at the beginning of the movie, when he showed up trying to help Mr. Incredible. He's like, I work alone. You can't help me. Go, like, fly home. And so he was upset and it crushed him. So he used his technology and his smarts to build up his company. And then he started killing the supers, um, one by one. And so spoiler if you haven't seen the movie, he actually secretly hired Mr. Incredible to go destroy these robots or whatever that he had that was like killing the supers. And he had to keep like improving it to actually get to the point where it could kill Mr. incredible. And so his goal was to get rid of the actual superpowered people so you could have all the normal people buy up his products and they could all be super. And he had a line. He said, when everyone is super, no one will be. And that's what this feels like. Like everyone, you know, people who are unique and different, like men and women are different, you know, they have their thing. Women are this sometimes it can seem unfair how much stronger men are than women, etc. The physical advantage that they have, but women they breathe life. You know, it's pretty incredible. Yet we have to reduce, you know, womanhood. And I saw a great TikTok the other day, and a woman was talking about how people want to redefine womanhood and have everyone fit in, and the thing that makes women like really really unique, they want to exclude that from actually being women. Like, oh yeah, you can breastfeed and you have a period, which is awful, terrible, by the way. It's just a thing we go through. um Nothing to glorify. You know, it's an inconvenience every time it's my time of the month, I got to tell you. But um we give birth, you know, and but they'll try to say, oh, that doesn't matter, that's not a part of it, and try to use situations where a woman might not be able to give birth, or there might be, you know, sterile or whatever, which that's something that's not working, that within a woman's body. Like we've had this conversation a lot of times before. Like I've mentioned, like my siblings, there's seven of us, and only me and my brother have 10 fingers. And you're probably like, what? Yes, only me and my brother have 10 fingers. Now when everyone else was babies, they you know, they start growing out like these little fingers, you know, like right here on their pinkies, and they didn't have any bone in them. So I don't know the technical term of it, but the doctors would just either cut them off or tie a rubber band, and they fell right off. So they just have, you know, little nubbins, like the remainder of what it is. But yeah, only me and my brother. So if you asked me how many fingers human beings have, I'm gonna still tell you 10, even though you can have some kind of abnormality and have 11 or 12 or more. I'm still, and like I have some relatives that have bone in them. So you can't just you do the same thing with a rubber band. So just because some people are different doesn't exclude the main thing about women. But they the things that make women unique, they want to push it away so they're able to qualify. So and I mentioned yesterday that if however you feel as a man, you know, whatever inclinations or whatever you have, that doesn't make you a woman. It just means as a man, it's possible to still have those feelings and emotions too. You're just different, but you're still a dude. You're still a dude. You're not a woman. So they want to get rid of what makes people special, what makes them different, and then they want to try to make everyone else special by their scientific achievements or whatever, so no one can be special. So now you're at the point where women can't have their own college because you have to include trans women, which are men who identify as women, and they're non-binary, but they're still but the kicker is they're still including trans men. And so by their ideology, these women who identify as men, are they not fully men? If the trans women are women, how come the trans men aren't men? So you're gonna have biological women, as you should in a woman's college, but you're gonna also include biological men because they say they're a woman. So the only people who can't go are the cisgendered men. And I'm only using this language, you know, to, you know, I think cis is stupid. I have a pretty viral video talking about it, but just throwing the language out there so you guys understand it, I guess. But that's what's going on. That's what's going on. So the in the article it goes on to talk, you know, to quote different people who are for it, who are against it. Said the college will continue to engage with all students, including transgender male and non-binary students, in the important work of the building an inclusive academic community where everyone feels they belong. That's what they said in their statement. Um, but there was one person who they said was a pro-life. They're pro-life activists, but the New York Times made sure to call them an anti-abortion activist, which is interesting. Um, because I know the media wants to shift to, instead of calling pro-life people pro-life, that they just call them anti-abortion because they don't want to have. I mean, if you're pro-life, it sounds like there's some kind of positive connotation with that, right? And I don't think though forced birthers is a slur they use. I don't think that's gonna catch on with like the media when they're interviewing people. But if they're going to start incorporating and having anti-abortion rather than pro-life, um, though I'm sure I don't know if they'll. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if they've started writing articles instead of saying pro-choice, or they're just saying pro-abortion. Um, but I'm assuming that if the New York Times talks about abortion, that they're probably using language like reproductive rights or whatever, because Planned Parenthood is aware, because they've had like internal memos and other stuff like that, that the public still has a negative kind of connotation with abortion. So that's why you hear a lot of people mention reproductive rights. But yeah, they're saying this woman is anti-abortion rather than pro-life. And she mentioned that she didn't like it, but she didn't bother speaking out against it. And the reason why she didn't bother speaking out against it is because she thought the referendum was going to get passed anyway, and she's not probably wrong about that. But she said it would get passed anyway, and it would be social suicide. Now, if it's social suicide and the stuff is going to get passed anyway, and again, maybe she's correct, but if people are just willing to give up the fight, then we've just conceded the ground, period. You know, and she's one person. I'm not saying that she could have possibly made all the difference, but people get it in their head that there's no point in even trying and engaging with this conversation at all. That if people get that in their head and they just give up, as like normal people who are just like, this is a women's college, we should probably just have women come, and be at the college and not have the dudes come in. It doesn't make sense for men to come in our exclusively female college, which they still believe, I guess, is exclusively female college, open to all forms of women, even the ones who are not ascribing to some kind of binary. But if there's people who are like, you know what, maybe it should just be women who are women coming to women's colleges. If that still makes sense to you, and if you're willing to speak up, that's social suicide. So people ask why we talk about these things, or why I talk about these things, and um I keep saying these aren't things that I take a lot of pleasure in mentioning time and time again when this stuff ends up in the news. But one of the reasons why I do just Black Teen News, period, is because if we don't break through the culture, break through the media, break through this big monopoly that the really radical folks have, um, then everything is just kind of lost. There was a poll that came out some time ago. It was like 60 something percent of Americans are afraid to voice their real opinions, because of whatever kind of blowback. I'm not one of those people, and I don't want you to be one of those people. So it gives me great pleasure when I get some kind of message on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and someone's like, watching your show has made me, speak out more. I'm talking to my neighbors, I'm talking to my friends, my family, whatever. And I don't, just trying to reintroduce common sense into the world. But if people are too afraid to have those conversations, you will be overrun by a very vocal but very small minority of people. And then you'll have these culture icons like Drew Barrymore. The other day we played her show when she had Dylan Mulvaney on her show. And those are and Dylan Mulvaney's, had a thing with Tampax and Ulta, and has been at the White House and been on red carpets and Fashion Week. So these are the people that they're uplifting as icons. Like Jordan Peterson mentioned that he wouldn't have bothered talking about Ellen Page if Ellen Page didn't do, some kind of magazine cover or magazine spread or whatever with her abs, and her, with her breasts cut off and stuff. And he's like, how many people did she possibly influence to make this shift, to make this change? And so he felt the need to speak out about it, because you can have these sort of social contagions. And people get mad when you mention that. And I'm like, there's other sort of issues that women, or just not women, but it is something that's really happening with among young women though. But that people can be around other people who are depressed, or if suicide, I don't know, gosh, that's probably gonna get me flagged, can be something that people can see there's some kind of a bit of a contagion to, like people are depressed, and other it can influence some other people sometimes in those kind in different groups of people in other sort of conditions. And why isn't this something that we can look at and say maybe there's some kind of effect here? In the whistleblower report, that we read, when it said, I thought it was saving the trans kids, that's another thing that they talk about, like, why not look at this kind of stuff, or question, or maybe that was out Abigail Schreier's book. They're kind of blending together now. Maybe Abigail Schreier made that point in Irreversible Damage. But there is obviously an element of social contagion here, where you have these young women and they see all these people getting all this praise. Dylan Mulvaney has copycats of boys, doing their days of girlhood in their cars, looking at tampons, freaking out, saying, oh, where does this go? I'm sure you don't want to find out. I don't use tampons myself. I've never been a tampon chick. I don't like them. So if we don't just stand up to the madness, this is going to be our world. This is going to be what it is. Like, they say that gender is a social construct. You and I know that is not true. You and I know that's not true, that sex and gender the words have been used interchangeably historically. And people have, feminists started talking about gender roles and other stuff, and the ideology kind of expanded. But we can recognize that sex and gender are meaningfully intertwined. You can't really separate them regardless of whatever the heck you say. That's why people go out and take hormones and have surgery or whatever, because they're trying to chase a biological reality. If it was just about how you identify, you wouldn't do anything to your body, and there wouldn't be these discussions about, or people being angry, like, you're not going to let us pump kids full of hormones. Like, why should we? if it's their thoughts that make them a girl, or their thoughts that make them a boy, why do you need the chemical castration drugs? It's not adding up. The math ain't mathing, right? The math ain't mathing. But if they can say it's a societal construct, and if we all agree with that, you and I are like, that doesn't make any sense. And if society gets to decide, we've already decided that, like the kid in kindergarten cop, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. Like, if that's what we all already decided, but we're all too quiet and afraid to say that, they know it's a race to the finish line. They know it's a race to the finish line. And they're full speed ahead, and we're just too afraid to step forward at all. So I'm not that person. I don't want you to be that person. And this young woman, I understand this girl who said there's no point in fighting against the referendum. They're going to do what they're going to do, and it's just going to be social suicide. Which, I don't know how much she cares about social suicide, because she's already pro-life. That's probably got to be rough on the college anyway. But she just let it be. So I don't know what's going on with our world, guys, but we just gotta keep fighting. Um, Moving on very quickly, I want to mention that I just saw a video from James O'Keefe. I was gonna play it, but it had some music behind it, and I didn't feel like getting dinged by copyright or risking it. So, um, if you don't know, Project Veritas, the thing that James O'Keefe started, he broke Acorn and other stories. The big story they just had was a Pfizer undercover where they had someone who worked within Pfizer claiming that they were mutating like the virus or something. It sounded like some gain of function research, which some of our legislators in Michigan like wanted to know about some accountability and wanted Pfizer stuff to ask questions. They actually did a press conference, so it was a pretty big deal. And then O'Keefe confronted the person on camera, and it was pretty amazing watching like the reaction. So if you haven't seen that, you can go ahead and watch it. But after that happened, Project Veritas just kind of exploded as far as they had a war with O'Keefe and they pushed him out. We went through James O'Keefe's, video and talked about it, but it's like 40 minutes long when he addressed his, staff and why he was leaving. But something that he funded, he got pushed out. And so the donors were very upset because I said that it seemed like I'm like, they must be trying to destroy the company because this stuff doesn't make sense. But after other observation, I'm like, maybe it's just like legitimately dumb people, the suits versus the talent, as Mike Cernovich like pointed out, and people who thought that they could run it and they have an issue with the talent, the face of it, and that they could just run, I don't know, replace them and do whatever themselves. So they have been breaking some stories, but it's not getting any traction. Like people don't care because people don't trust them. People start unfollowing them, and they were lying to people. They were lying on donors. um, One of the things that James O'Keefe had in his video that he made is he's walking and someone hands him a Subway sandwich and he bites it and he throws it on the ground. And I'm assuming the reason for that is because one of the things he was accused of during his inquisition is that he stole someone's sandwich. And it was just a really wild story. And so anyway, he had put out there for people to buy some undercover cameras and to sign up to be like, I guess, citizen sort of journalist. And he announced that he's starting his own group, his own media company. And I'm assuming he knows how to fundraise. He's been fundraising for a long time. I'm assuming that he's gonna get some big bucks pretty quickly and just get back to work because he knows what he's doing. He has this, I'm assuming, some people who are loyal and left with him or that he's associated with, but folks are gonna want to help him. So I'm glad that he's already kind of getting back on his feet with this. I did not like Project Veritas what they did. If there's more story to tell, they need to, I don't know, get on the internet and really tell their side of the story. But for everything from O'Keefe's angle, it just doesn't look good for them. And then there was some stuff that they issued out like a report, expense report claiming like, oh, he abused the money because he spent too much on cars and he traveled here when he didn't need to and he could have had meetings on Zoom. And I'm like, is that the best you guys have to your reason for kicking out the face of Project Veritas? Because this just seems like if you're a big donor and you really invest in this company or whatever, it just seems like negligence at that point. So I mean, that's why at first I'm like, do they want to destroy the company? Because it was really interesting timing because it happened right after the Pfizer situation. Um, the big Pfizer story, and it's like, were you guys paid off to like just destroy the company? Were you paid off to like push O'Keefe out? Like what was it? Because this doesn't make any sense. But it could just be the arrogance of the board and not understanding how much people were going to be behind O'Keefe. Like people were immediately like saying, "I want my money back." Donors were asking for their money back, and there was one event that a big donor had that he raised on Twitter. And he's like, I want my money back, and I want everyone who donated to get their money back because, you guys were trying to get rid of O'Keefe at this time and you guys weren't honest. And so the founder of Anadot was actually like in the comments helping people get their money back. I'm like, that's pretty incredible. Pretty incredible. When you have a processing agency really helping to get the people's their money back after that situation. So I'm glad that O'Keefe is moving on. I'm glad. So someone said homeschool your children. Definitely. Um, definitely do that. Definitely do that if you can. No, even if you think you can, I would definitely recommend homeschooling your child for sure. But unfortunately, the story that we had earlier was about college. But they're indoctrinating kids and stuff in the schools too. They're not waiting. They're definitely not waiting. Um, and I'll get into conversations with people who are pro life like I am, but they'll say that we really need to have more like sex education in the schools. And I'm like, one, if you're looking at it from like a pro life standpoint, unless people are like actively trying to teach that abortion is a bad thing, it's not going to really help. Um, like the majority of abortions are from adult women. They're not from young. They're from adult. And they know how babies are made. Some of these women, already have babies. They might have multiple babies. You know, uh, Not understanding sex isn't why women are having abortions. It's just not in mass. So I think it's not strong. But anyway, they want sex education K through 12, which Thomas Sowell had made the point, like, if it was just about learning stuff about your body, then why does it take like 12 years to teach you like that relevant information? Why do they want it like that long? What, multiple years? And in his commentary, I think it's from one of his books. I was listening to audiobook of it, or his portion of it anyway. And I don't even know at that point in time if they were pushing K through 12. But now they're pushing K through 12. And they're not just teaching about some sex stuff, like normal kind of body stuff. They're really incorporating gender identity, ideology, all that stuff in there. And I've known parents who've like sat on boards to try to like see what they were trying to do. And they kept trying to push in like gender identity stuff, and the parent was pushing back like, this doesn't make any sense, because the goal is for kids to not get STDs and not get pregnant. Like that's supposed to be the goal. So why are we introducing all this gender stuff? So um, you want to talk about a breeding ground for this stuff? It's it's the schools where you send your kids. It's the schools where you send your kids. Just want to let you know. Moving on, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who it's such a shame that he survived his recall, but Larry, it'd be so cool if Larry Elder had beat him out. But The Intercept is reporting, cheering Silicon Valley bank bailout. Gavin Newsom doesn't mention he's a client. At least three of the California governor's wine companies are held by SVB. A bank president sits on the board of his wife's charity. Very interesting. California Governor Gavin Newsom praised the Biden administration's decision to intervene on behalf of Silicon Valley Bank's clients after the bank was taken over by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation last Friday amid a bank run. The White House acted swiftly and decisively to protect the American economy and strengthen public confidence in our banking system, Newsom said in a statement. What Newsom didn't mention is that it also protected his own companies if they held over $250,000 in deposits. Cade, Odette, and Plumjack, three wineries owned by Newsom, are listed as clients of SVB on the bank's website. Newsom also maintained personal accounts at SVB for years, according to the longtime former employee of Newsom's who handled his finances and who requested, um, you know, anonymity to avoid professional reprisal. Governor Newsom's business and financial holdings are held and managed by a blind trust, as they have been since he was first elected governor in 2018. Nathan Click, a spokesperson for Newsom, told The Intercept in an email. Newsom also didn't mention his wife, Jennifer Sybil's professional, it could be Sybel's, but it's his wife, professional ties to the bank. In 2021, Silicon Valley Bank gave $100,000 to the charity founded by Jennifer, the California Partners Project, at the request of Newsom. John China, president of SVB Capital and responsible for SVB's funds management, is himself founding member of California Partners Project Board of Directors. Newsom added on Monday that he had been in close contact with the administration about SVB. Over the last 48 hours, I have been in touch with the highest level of leadership at the White House and Treasury, Newsom said of SVB's collapse in a statement released on Saturday. Asked about the nature of the interactions, the governor's deputy communications director, Brandon Richards, did not respond. So, Newsom was a multimillionaire who was a businessman before becoming a politician and has dodged for years with ethics questions about his corporate holdings. When asked during a 2018 campaign for governor if he would sell his companies, Newsom reportedly replied, "Those are my babies, my life, my family. I can't do that. I can't sell them." Which I'm not gonna rag on him for not selling his companies. To be honest, it's a relevant question because people were certainly asking that question of Trump when he was running for president, and he was like, "I'll just give it to my kids or whatever," and but that was a huge question. People were really, really pushing on Trump. So I'm not surprised that that is like a question now. But I don't having them in a blind trust. That's what they say it happened. And I'm not gonna. I don't think it's shady that he didn't sell his companies. Um, if you're doing unethical things or you're motivated for whatever reasons to do X, Y, and Z because of your companies and you happen to have this position of power, yeah, that would be shady. But you know, I don't think you should not have something like that you built after you leave office, because hopefully he will leave office and will not try to be the president one day. He'll probably try for real. I think he pretty much sees someone like Ron DeSantis as a front runner and is always like reacting and tweeting and talking about him. So I think he feels like he's the face for something next. Now, maybe people thought Cuomo was gonna be the guy, but obviously he had to resign in disgrace. But I think he very much wants to be on the front center stage. But yeah, I'm not gonna rag on somebody for keeping their businesses. Maybe people feel differently, but I, you know, instead in December 2018, Newsom announced that he would establish a blind trust and give control to his trusted family friend and attorney, Shyla Hendrickson. Under the arrangement, his sister Hillary Newsom retained her role as president of the governor's Plum Jack Group, which includes hotels, wineries, bars, restaurants, and liquor stores founded by Newsom. The move echoed President yeah, and it's going into there. um, Newsom also recently came under fire in California's press for allegedly abusing what are called behested payments, donations requested by politicians for any legislative, governmental, or charitable purpose. Though California laws stringently regulates campaign contributions and gifts to elected officials, there are no limits on behested payments like a $100,000 donation that Newsom requested from SVB for his wife's charity. Last year, Newsom reported at least 23.7 million in payments to such groups at his behest. SVB's implosion on Friday presented the second largest bank collapse in U.S. history and the first since the financial crisis of 2008. Over 90% of the bank's depositors have over 250,000 amount federally guaranteed by the FDIC. Another thing to note about all this is that, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, and I don't know if you guys have heard, but a lot of like woke and climate stuff is related in the as far as like different startups and stuff, and SVB. It's funding a lot of or holding the money for a lot of really woke stuff. So I am not surprised that they thought that this was too big to fail. I said the other day, that I probably thought they should, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess I mean I've heard good arguments both ways, and that they really don't want to. What would be the repercussions if there was this huge collapse? And but something I don't think is really being talked about enough, especially to rag on the Democrats and Biden and stuff, is that they use this funds, all these funds. They had this huge influx of cash because we did, just print so much crap, and people, a lot of people invested, different money that they had into tech or whatever, and they had this big boom, but apparently it was a bubble, and the banks invested it in bonds, and the government bonds that they had, they ended up losing money because of inflation. And it's like, are we going to talk about the cost of inflation and how, you know, this has helped to lead to this crisis as well? Or are we going to really, while Biden tries to go out there and present the numbers in whatever kind of way and downplay the sort of economic issues that we have, are we just going to not mention inflation at all? I mean, people are mentioning it in a explaining what happened, but are we like pointing enough fingers around? Are we doing that? I don't know that we are. Not that I've really observed. And it kind of seems like Biden was tweeting, or someone who has his account was tweeting, get rid of assault weapons. Which the question is, what the heck do you think is an assault weapon? If I assaulted you with this water bottle, is that suddenly an assault weapon? Of course they don't mean that, but which particular guns are you calling an assault weapon? Because it's a very broad term, and some people might think that assault weapon is an AR-15 because they literally think an AR-15 means assault rifle, and they don't know that that's not what it means. So, actually, a friend of mine, who was like a liberal. I don't know if I would go to far to say that she was a leftist, but she was on the left. She caucused for Hillary, before in the past, and she shared a video of her like crying, being emotional after Hillary lost. She's really proud that she ran as a woman, and all the, no, it wasn't as epically sad as like other videos I've seen, but I'm sure she shared it out of fun, but she could laugh about her state of mind back then. But one thing that also like started her on her journey, she complained about assault weapons, and she was like, and someone was like, um, do you know what that means? And she realized she didn't. And then she realized there were lots of things that she talked about, I guess, that she didn't really think through. And so she identifies as independent. On TikTok, her username is Party of Logic. If you don't follow Party of Logic, she's great. I've had her on my show before. We analyzed different TikTok videos and had different conversations. So if you want to go back in the archives and find Party of Logic, she's great. She really is great. But yeah, Biden is tweeting about that stuff, and so Ben Shapiro was like, "Is this like a distraction now? Like, there's this big financial crisis, going on, and are you bringing up this stuff now to kind of distract the American people, to be like angry about this rather than, realizing what's going on with the economic situation?" So maybe that's the strategy, because tweeting out stuff like get rid of assault weapon. A lot of people have guns and like guns, and not just Republicans too. Plenty of Democrats like their guns, and that's why on debate stages, you know, Democrats have to lie and be like, "Oh, we're not coming for this gun and that gun. You can still hunt." And you know, when the truth is, you should be concerned when going back to 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running, and someone said, "Oh, would you be interested in doing what Australia did, which was a mandatory buyback?" And they're like, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea," or it may people should be like, "No, we're not doing that. This is America. There's a reason why we have the Second Amendment, and it's not just for hunting, and it's not just for like protecting yourself against criminals or what. It's to protect yourself from us, the government. And I respect you enough to keep your leverage in the situation, and you should really want that. That's what politicians should say. Not be like, oh yeah, sure, we should entertain a mandatory buyback of your firearms. No, that's not what should happen. Absolutely should not what should happen. Last thing I want to mention is that Fox News is in Fox Nation specifically, they're doing some kind of video, some kind of documentary or story on Jussie Smollett. And they brought in the guys that he paid to attack him, and they explained their story. So I'm gonna play a little bit of it, but it's really remarkable. I don't know how you cannot know about the situation if you didn't follow it back then, but Jussie Smollett claimed that he was robbed, that he was attacked, and for being on the show Empire and being gay, and that he was attacked by some guys who said this is MAGA country and they wore MAGA hats or whatever. So I don't know how deeply he thought about it. I mean, he obviously plotted it, but was he trying to start a racial war, racial riot? Was he thinking about it that deeply? I don't know if he was thinking about it that deeply, but what he did was repulsive. So it's just crazy they did it anyway. By the way, he wrote a check out to these gentlemen. And I'm like, you are so dumb. Like, forget about the egregiousness of what you did. Like, we can't forget about it, but let's just put that aside. You wrote them a check straight to jail. Like, straight to jail. Yeah, so I don't know how deep he wanted the political ramifications of everything to be. Maybe he just really, really wanted to make some attention for himself. But to all the people who started retweeting him, like Kamala Harris and so on, uplifting Jussie and condemning anyone who was right wing or whoever's worn a MAGA hat or whatever, because these are the kind of people that breed these kind of results. And you had Ellen Page commenting, and it was, I think she was on an interview, and this is when she still identified as Ellen, and I think she had gotten married, which she is divorced with that woman now. And they mentioned Mike Pence, and this was just all indicative of Trump's America. But the issue of them saying it's indicative of Trump's America is that it wasn't true. And if you had a brain, and I'm sorry if you're out there and you believed it for even one moment, it just didn't make any sense. Like, it was really cold. There was a polar vortex at the time. It was really late. And I'm like, Subway's open that late? Like, but maybe it is. But that was questionable to me too. But I'm just like, Subway's open that late? But perhaps it was. However, I'm like, why would these really MAGA folk people even know who the heck he is? Watching his show on Empire? Is that what MAGA people do on Monday nights or whenever the show came on? Sit down and say, yo, yeah, you gotta watch, Empire. I don't think so. I'm not saying you don't exist, MAGA Empire fans. I just don't know how many of you are out there. But to be in Chicago and saying this is MAGA country, we know it's not. We know it's not. Like, none of the story made any sense. None of it. And then he didn't really want to give over his phone. He wasn't cooperative with the police and other stuff like that. So eventually it came out he was lying, even though he went on TV crying and went on stage talking about, yeah, I fought back. And it was just a mess. Hilarious, but it was also infuriating how much people went along with it. But yeah, Fox Nation is interviewing them and doing a story. kudos to them. This is brilliant. This was such a hot story, but here are the two fellas.
Our beautiful bench. This is where we waited for Jussie to come before we attacked him. So we got here with 10 minutes to spare, and we had to plan our escape route to survey the land. His building is actually right here, right above the stairs that we're going to attack him at. We made sure we got there at 2 a.m. sharp.
On the dot.
On the dot. We had no phones because he did not want us to bring any phones. He said, so we don't lose them. I don't know if that's really the reason, but you can deduce your own reason. So 2 a.m., he was nowhere to be found. He was not there. So we were like, damn, what do? We didn't have no way of contacting him. He had no way of contacting us. So we waited here for about, what? 4 minutes?
It was about 4
Roughly
minutes,
4 minutes.
but it felt like forever.
Because it was cold as balls. So I saw him out the corner of my...
Again, it was cold. It was cold because there was a polar vortex. Like, poor planning on his part, but just... Like, I just remember my dad talking about how dumb the story was, and he's just like, there was a polar vortex. But people didn't want to think logically about it because they were so emotionally invested in who they think their political enemy is. So they've created the super violent, caricature of their opponent. And when I've been to events, like there's this one event I went to as a Democrat Party picnic. They didn't know I was Republican, didn't mention it, and but they like legit were saying Republicans don't have empathy and they don't care about anyone. And I'm just like thinking to myself, like, okay, we're having, good conversations. I'm talking to you guys about my family, and we're getting along. And even like they despise Trump. I'm just thinking, you don't think Trump cares about his kids? You don't think Trump cares about his wife? You don't care, maybe he doesn't honor his wives as much as like the next person, but you don't think he cares about anybody like at all? So that was just a repeated theme throughout the day. So if you start villainizing your opponents to the point where you just find them like inhuman to just like lack these qualities at all, I guess you can expect anything from them.
And I was like, okay, that's him. Let's go. We gotta go get this Empire Yeah, that's him. That's him. Is that him?
That's that Nick.
It's that Nick.
Get that Nick.
Oh, he's moving fast. Come on, let's get him.
Get that Nick.
Let's get him. As we crossed the street, we said hey to get his attention.
Hey, Nick.
Hey. He turned around, looked at us, and that's when we started yelling the famous slurs he wanted us to yell. Hey.
Aren't you that Empire
hey, Empire Nick. It's MAGA country. Yeah. And then he said, what did you say to me? And then that's when I threw the first punch at him. I held the blow because I didn't want to hurt him, of course. So I made it look real, but I held it. Then we started tussling, moving around, and then I threw him to the ground. He wanted it to look like he fought back. That was very important for him because he said, hey, don't just beat my ass, make it look like I'm fighting back and whatnot. So we did that, and then I threw him to the...
So again, this is hysterical to me because there is a video of Jussie Smollett, which I want to shout out to this comment here, like going to Subway was the first red flag. I would say no shade to people like Subway, but that's definitely shade. It's okay if you throw some Tubby sauce on it or something, but you definitely got to buy that Tubby sauce. There's just other better sub places, but there's video of Jussie Smollett being in clubs or whatever, talking about how he fought back. Like he's so proud that he fought back against his attackers, and so hearing this commentary, how he planned it out, and this fake thing that he took such public pride in, it's just funny.
the ground, and after I threw him to the ground, he had no bruise. I wanted it to look more real. So then I threw him to the ground. After I threw him to the ground, I used my knuckle and gave him a noogie. So I went like this. Why did I do that? To give him a scar, to give him a mark, to make it look real, like he really did get his ass beat. After I did that, I fake kicked him. I don't know what he was doing. I wasn't paying attention.
That's where I came around with the bleach, the infamous bleach in the hot sauce bottle, poured it on his shirt. Then I finally put the rope around his face. I did not put it around his neck. I just placed it on his face, and that's when we took off.
Oh gosh, Anatomy of a Hoax. Yes. Oh, that's funny. That is funny that they got those guys. So it's just pitiful. The whole thing is pitiful. Um to just ruin yourself over this, to become a living meme, a living sort of slur. When people don't believe you and you're saying something that sounds like totally unbelievable, they say they call people Jussie Smollett. You know, a well-deserved slur, a well-deserved slur. So I might have to check that out on Fox Nation. Anyway, thank you guys for joining today, for watching today. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blackteennews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. Please check out different merch that I have, like my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available for pre-order on Kindle and on Nook. It will be available for paperback, so make sure that you guys are signing up for updates. As I keep reminding people, because they're like, get your God out my uterus. I do not normally make, or at least originally my intention was not to talk about this topic and have to focus on religion. But then even if you like didn't bring it up, people would still be like, life starts at first breath. I'm like, what? It doesn't say that. And so after like having to like correct time and time again, I just compiled a book. But it'll be very helpful for a lot of people, certainly. So go on the lookout for that. You guys can also check out other books that I have. I have 15 published books, actually. One is a fiction book. The rest are one is a nonfiction book. The rest are fiction. If you go to blackteennews.com and hit the merchandise button, there's a banner that will take you to my book website. My book website is ninjadustpublishing.com. But if you search my name on Amazon, you will be sure to find all my things. And March is reading month, so make sure you guys are getting some good stuff, especially for your kids. You know, like Super Kid 2. My readers tell me that it's epic. So trust the children. They're good chapter books. But my mom, she really, if there was a book that we wanted, and we weren't like huge readers as kids, but I mean, not like some people are showing me their bookshelves and stuff. I'm like, that's impressive. But if we wanted a book, she would get us books. So we had a lot of like different picture books and other stuff like that when we were kids growing up. And I enjoyed, different, chapter books and stuff. Actually, one time I had a book reading at a library out when we were living in Clarkston. And actually, I guess normally when they'd have different events, they just wouldn't turn out very well. So the librarian was very sketchy about having a signing at all. And she's just like, I put so much work into other ones. They didn't turn out very well, and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, just give me a shot. So they let me, put it on. They put it in their newsletter. And so I had a decent turnout. People that I knew, whatever, came and supported me. But my teacher, my second grade teacher, saw it in the newsletter. And so she showed up to my, book signing and stuff, and heard me talk about, publishing and all that other stuff. And then she invited me to come, because she still taught. She just taught at a different school. The school where she was my second grade teacher, that school is, if you know what Webster Elementary School is, if you're local, it's no longer a school. But she taught somewhere else. So she invited me to her school. So I got to read my books to the kids. And I love doing that kind of stuff, invite authors, not drag queens. So I I had a great, time doing that. But I started telling the story because when we would read in class, she would read to the class different, books and stuff. Bailey School Kids books was something I really, enjoyed. Um, and at first, when I started talking about it, like, do you remember reading like books to us that were like, my teacher is a vampire, my teacher is a ghost or something, and she's like, oh, I wouldn't read something like that. And then like Bailey School Kids, and she's like, oh yeah, I did that. But I told her, I said sometimes when I still read, I would still hear her voice, and so she's like, oh. So anyway, read to your kids, get them some books. You never know how that might impact their lives. So into them at least, you know, that. So doesn't have to be my book. I'd like it for it to be my book though. So if you're interested, you can go to blackteens.com and if you hit the merchandise, there's a banner to get the website. Otherwise, the website is ninjadustpublishing.com. And I'll just throw it up really quickly. But if you go to Black Teen News, you can find everything too. So God bless you guys. I hope you enjoyed. Oh, thank you. Got a comment said, I just want to say, I so appreciate your videos and your insights. You're quite lovely, and I hope you grow huge. Thank you very much. I very, very much appreciate you guys in the comments. And I will see you guys tomorrow.